Kazakhstan'dan Salim, welcome to Inform You. Very soon, one of the most promising welterweight prospects can confidently say the future UFC champion. Kazakhstani fighter Shavkat Rakhmonov will return to the octagon to fight with UFC legend American Stephen Thompson. Youth versus experience, all-rounder versus striker. Will Rakhmonov be able to finish Thompson and get his next title shot? At the moment, Rakhmonov's track record is ideal and looks very impressive, even terrifying. Many top fighters avoid him and don't want to fight him. At 29 years old, he has 17 fights under his belt, 5 of which are in the UFC promotion. It is worth noting that Rakhmonov finished all the fights ahead of schedule and finished many famous fighters. In his debut fight at the UFC 254 tournament in Abu Dhabi, Rakhmonov met with the experienced Brazilian mixed martial artist Alex Oliveira. At that time, Oliveira was coming with 2 victories in a row. The Brazilian fighter was confident. He had struck fear into his Kazakh opponent during their informal pre-fight hotel meeting. According to Cowboy, he and Rakhmonov met 3 days before the weigh-in, and the Kazakh's appearance showed how nervous he was. This guy, Rakhmonov, is coming into the fight after a streak of victories, and he was confident in himself until he saw me during breakfast when our paths crossed. He realized that problems awaited him ahead. It was a little tense. He was looking at me, so I walked up to him to shake his hand. We shook hands and he realized that my hands were like backhoe buckets. They are much larger than his. I saw in his eyes that he was drifting. We can tell when an opponent is feeling the pressure. I immediately noticed that he felt it. He thought, Cowboy is here. He took the fight on short notice, made the weight. He is fit, he is strong as hell. And he still came up to shake my hand. I showed him that it's just a business, a job, and friendship continues, but if he doesn't want to be friends, I might as well. Rakhmonov did not expect this. He thought he was going to fight someone much shorter, but I'm almost the same height as him, and I'm pretty damn strong for this division. He realized what trouble he's in when we step into the octagon. It will hurt him when I land my hand on his face. He's never fought an opponent as tough as me, Oliveira said in an interview with MMA Fighting. However, the words of Cowboy remained the only words. The fight was supposed to last 3 rounds, but already in the first round the Kazakh man performed a painful guillotine hold, as a result of which Oliveira gave up and Rakhmonov loudly declared himself to the whole world. After a bright debut, Rakhmonov quickly burst into the UFC and received his next opponent in the person of Oliveira's compatriot, 39-year-old fighter Michel Prazeres. The UFC veteran was long past his prime, but he was still dangerous. Prazeres is a fighter who destroyed Mairbek Taysumov by 1 wicket and was on a win streak streak of 8 wins and 1 loss before the meeting with Rakhmonov. The fighters met in Las Vegas at the UFC Fight Night 190 tournament. The first seconds of the fight were spent in reconnaissance. The rivals took a closer look at each other. The Brazilians' tactics were obvious: not to stretch the fight out over all 3 rounds and rely on his strong blow. The Kazakhstani also preferred to lay all his trump cards on the table. Shavkat's jabs landed repeatedly, and the pace of the fight continued to remain high. In the middle of the round, Michel tried a takedown but was unsuccessful. The fighters clashed at the net and then on the octagon flooring. The first third of the fight was left to Rakhmonov. He was clearly more active. The Kazakh athlete started the second round actively again, using jabs, roundhouse kicks, and at the same time successfully defending himself from the Brazilians' attacks. At some point, Rakhmonov's advantage began to seem obvious. All attempts by Prazeres to make a grab were in vain, but Rakhmonov was able to carry out a similar technique. On the second attempt, he found himself in an excellent position to enter the choke. Shavkat grabbed the Brazilian's neck and he was forced to surrender. As a result, after the fight with Rakhmonov, Prazeres ends his career as a fighter and retires. The Kazakhstani already has 2 early victories and excellent future prospects. The next victim for Rakhmonov was found quite quickly. The fight took place at the part of the main card of the UFC Fight Night 200 tournament in Las Vegas, in which the Kazakhstan met with Guyanese Carlston Harris. A Guyanese talent riding a 5-fight winning streak, was undefeated in the UFC before facing Shavkat and should have put together a strong apex and put on a good fight. Nomad was in his fight as a favorite and from the first seconds began to confirm his worth in the cage, occupying the center of the octagon, precisely shooting his opponent thanks to a spectacular roundhouse kick in the middle of the round. The Kazakhstani momentarily shocked Harris and then delivered a great through, but the Guyanese managed to get up. However, the Kazakh opponent failed to avoid a knockout in the first 5 minutes of the fight that evening. With the second perfect blow from the turntable, Nomad put his opponent on the canvas, where he calmly finished him off, registering another unconditional success in the American promotion. Thus, Rakhmonov maintained his perfect record and continued his confident ascent to the top of the welterweight division. Rated Neil Magny is a UFC legend, defeating top-ranked Lombard, Gastelum, 3 UFC champions, Lawler, Hendricks, and interim champion Carlos Condit. This guy from America was not afraid to accept the challenge of the Kazakhstani. The fight took place at the UFC Vegas 57 tournament. Magny spent almost the entire first round on his back, holding back the Kazakh attacks. In general, the American managed to remain relatively unharmed, missing only a few heavy hits. However, the 5-minute time definitely went to Shavkat's advantage. In the second round, Rakhmonov needed a minute to take his opponent down again. The Kazakhstani continued to dominate the surface, this time focusing on attempts to perform a painful hold or choke hold. With only a few seconds left before the gong, Shavkat succeeded in a guillotine choke, and Magny tapped as a sign of surrender. This success was the 16th for Shavkat Rakhmonov in his professional career and the 4th in fights under the auspices of the UFC, and allowed him to settle in the top 10 of the welterweight division rankings. One of the most difficult fights in Rakhmonov's career took place against American striker Geoff Neal as part of their main card of the UFC 285 tournament in Las Vegas. The American failed to weigh in, unable to make the weight in the welterweight category. Fortunately for us, Rakhmonov agreed to fight. The first round began with reconnaissance. Rakhmonov seriously hit the American with his knee a couple of times, but Neal showed miracles of resilience. By the way, Neal was not all afraid of Shavkat, and the Kazakhstani began to miss a lot. In the second round, Shavkat hit the body well with his knee. The opponent got tired and began to lose ground. Rakhmonov, as usual, tried to finish it early, but Geoff defended himself competently and did not allow the fight to go to the ground. The third round was amazing in every way. Shavkat almost fell after Neal's blow. The fighter started a real fight. The American was hammered by a severe cut. Neal's entire face was covered in blood. A few tenths of seconds before the end of the clock, Shavkat took Neal into an unusual stand-up choke. Geoff did not have enough strength to resist. By the way, Geoff Neal had never lost by submission in the UFC. This battle turned out to be incredibly tough. The American gave the fight to Rakhmonov like no other. Hits powerfully inflicted absolute damage and was able to become the first UFC fighter who was able to survive until the third round. And so let's return to the upcoming fight on 17th of December. The UFC 296 tournament in Las Vegas. Nomad will fight with Wonderboy. Shavkat Rakhmonov is currently ranked 5th in the UFC rankings for this division, and Stephen Thompson is 6th. According to the experts, the Kazakhstani is the big favorite. The underdog's prospects for victory. The American fighter is already 11 years older than Shavkat. He's already 40. But Stephen can hardly be called a veteran on the decline or a passing opponent. He deservedly ranks 6th in the ranking. Age seemed to have little effect on Thompson's speed and timing. The American works from a wide stance, traditional for karate. His most formidable weapons are lighting, fast doubles and devastating counterattacks. He hits well even against fast opponents, often changes stances and prefers to work as number 2. Stephen does not have a serious wrestling background, but on the ground he knows how to tie up opponents and minimize damage. True, he is not good at getting into standing position, and on the canvas Rakhmonov is guaranteed to wear him down and wait for the right moment for a painful hold of finishing move. Thompson's only chance to early victory is an accurate counterattack. It is unlikely that he expects to win by decision against an opponent who is not only physically stronger but also more resilient. The favorite's prospect for victory. Many consider Rakhmonov the main contender for the belt. It's unlikely that a victory over Thompson will open the way to a title fight, but Rakhmonov will definitely become the main candidate for a contenders fight. In all 17 fights, Shavkat won ahead of schedule, which made him such a confident favorite. He hits powerfully with his hands and feet, and his level of wrestling and several orders of magnitude higher than that of the Brighton. Most likely, the bet will be placed of transfers to the ground, where Stephen is unlikely to be able to do anything against Rakhmonov, but Rakhmonov can also surprise in the standing position, especially since the opponent will constantly expect translation attempts. As for a strategy, Shavkat should fight in the center of the octagon, since Thompson defends very well against takedowns near the net. Another advantage is the clinch, where he can wear down his opponent and wait for the right moment to throw. The main thing is not to rush headlong into the attack and not to miss unnecessary blows, although the option of a quick victory is not excluded when Rakhmonov relies on physical strength and transfers his opponent to canvas in the first seconds. What do you think? Who will be the winner? Write your opinion in the comments. And I wish both fighters good luck, and the strongest will win. Stay safe, stay tuned. My cameraman! I'm so tired. Let's read. And so, December at the UFC 200 tournament in Las Vegas.